Talohani Fakalofalayatu, a very warm welcome to the Pacific Way, bringing you stories that matter to Pacific people. In this episode, we travel to the Republic of Marshall Islands, where the islanders of Ano face a constant crisis with fresh, clean drinking water. With climate change causing more extreme weather events, the Marshall Islands faces rising seawater levels and declining fresh supplies. Thanks to the Pacific Community's Building Safety and Resilience project, which is funded by the European Union or EU, the islanders are able to tackle the problem of water shortages in the atolls. This is their story.
Ngay bây giờ đồ giờ lấy chích cho tôi gọi yêu loan giờ lấy chân ngồi lưỡi cây tôi cũng narong em phải ăn par nô tiar tak ấy narong tu lưỡi nó tao main mamaro no warar wal manar takan main mamaro no yawan di takam tabare.
In the Pacific, everyone is getting affected by climate change. Extreme weather patterns are occurring a lot more frequently in our paradise, and the severity of the impacts continue to increase. This is a story about the people of Ano, a remote atoll in the Republic of the Marshall Islands. Atoll islands are very low-lying, and as a result, the risk of disasters like waves crashing into the island and causing damage and loss of life is a reality the people of the Pacific face. In Ano, this happened in 2012. With many of the community waking up to waves crashing into their homes, stripping them of water tanks and household goods. Inundation refers to the overflow of water into an area that is normally dry. This inundation that caused damage to the people of Ano in 2012 was caused by high sea swells coinciding with an already high sea level. This type of disaster was made worse in 2015 when a drought hit the country, making it even harder for the community to access clean drinking water, as a lot of their water tanks were pulled out to sea during the 2012 inundation.
And that, dilo Olivian Mare, it jalok, I will rather than Chino Chaw.
Ya pian karpel pelok menunggu mirum correna oleh ben tak ini kan aku mirai pakai nur jadi mangai men dia optin par walang tak.
The Rir Lap Lap community in the Arno Atoll is 2 hours away by speedboat from the country's capital, Majuro. While this community may seem isolated, Arno is actually the closest and most accessible atoll outside of the nation's capital. After the inundation of 2012, 22 water tanks were donated to the communities of the Arno Atoll. Transportation costs alone to move the tanks from Majuro to Arno came to $92,000. A total of 217 water tanks were purchased and donated to 14 different atoll communities all over the Republic of the Marshall Islands. The water tanks were installed just before the country suffered a major drought between 2015 to 2016.
In the country, you will see it on a map that each island really segregate or really far from each other. So that's one of the challenges that we faced, and this is one of the main important reason why these tanks have played an important role in assisting the National Disaster Management Office. These water tanks have not only assisted in the response phase, but also in the longer term road ahead of us.
If the water tanks and rain harvesting systems are installed correctly, only a few days of good rainfall can supply a family with months of clean drinking water. Climate change will continue to affect the Republic of the Marshall Islands drastically. And while the discussion of relocation continues to surface, it is not a simple solution.
The complexity of the land tenure system here. And before a donor can understand, they have to understand that kind of complexity. We have 3 tiers of land ownership, and it's not easy to just move people. The people own the land. Government does not have land where they can just move people somewhere.
It is predicted that droughts are going to increase for atoll areas. The most immediate, effective, and sustainable response is to continuously build the safety and resilience of the people that are at the forefront of the battle against our changing climate.
Welcome back to the Pacific Way. Like thousands of Pacific Island people, many communities in the Kingdom of Tonga live along coastlines and low-lying areas. These coastal and low-lying areas are affected by coastal inundation and flooding, particularly during storms and cyclones. So monitoring ocean temperatures, sea level, winds, and tides provide critical information for planning and preparedness. With support from the Australian government, the Tongan government and the Pacific community, a new tide gauge station has been installed to constantly monitor and provide valuable information for stakeholders.
Io ko ka fo ko mau apini he ofi au pito ko ki tahi pea ai au ko mau tu la vengo fo au pito ki nge ko te me ha ke mai ai tahi pea ka ke nga tahi ka ko tahi me he ma pea vai leva me ta fa ke ta
o we ko malo ke me ke mi tai te au ai mama ko ya ko apino fo nga me matatai.
Many Tongans living along coastlines and low-lying areas are affected by coastal inundation and flooding, particularly during storms and cyclones. To help address this challenge, the government of Tonga has prioritized improved early warning systems, preparedness, and planning tools.
The government of Tonga recognizes the importance of early warning and early action to help save lives and mitigate the negative impact of these natural hazards, and is investing close to $40 million in strengthening its multi-hazard early warning system with the assistance and close cooperation with our development partners.
Monitoring ocean temperature, sea level, winds and tides provides critical information for planning and preparedness. All of this information is available from the Tonga Sea Level Monitoring Station or tide gauge. With support from the Australian government, the Tongan government and the Pacific Community, SPC, a tide gauge has been recording sea level and climate information in Tonga since January 1993. In 2018, after 25 years in its busy port location, the 1993 station was no longer in good condition. The wharf had expanded around it, placing the station in way of heavy vessel traffic. Fortunately, under the Climate and Ocean Support Program in the Pacific, or COSPAC project, Funding was identified to relocate and install a new state-of-the-art station on Vuna cruise ship wharf.
So the Bureau of Meteorology is involved in a fantastic project called COSPAC, which involves working with other regional organizations such as SPC. And together with SPC, and also Geoscience Australia, we've been installing, maintaining tide gauges in the Pacific countries.
This newly installed station is amongst the most technologically advanced in the region. It monitors sea level with an acoustic sensor, 2 radar sensors and a pressure sensor. In addition, it has an inbuilt Global Navigational Satellite System (GNSS) reference station, which allows for precise monitoring of sea level relative to land movement.
Now we have the tide gauge and the GNSS. I believe we have more reliable data for us to use, especially for mariners, for marine transport, especially marine safety and all those stuff. Also environment, climate change. Now if we use this data, more reliable data than all our data sets that relate to the sea and the ocean will be more accurate and will be more improved.
Information from the station's inbuilt automatic weather station is sent every minute via satellite communications, so it can be viewed in real time online and via direct link to the weather office. From here, the responsibility falls to Tonga Meteorological Service to get these critical messages and warnings out to the public. In order to reach the greatest number of citizens, Tonga Met has gone beyond traditional media.
Right now, a lot of the information that we provide goes out on the national television, national radio. We have an email group that we use. We also have a website that we post the information on. And we've just recently started posting information on the social media, on Facebook and Twitter.
The data available from the new sea level and geodetic monitoring station is key to many users.
It's important for shipping, it's important for tourism, it's important for even kids going for a swim, knowing whether it's safe to get into the water. But then you look at emergency management, tsunamis, again, really important for early warning systems. But if a tropical cyclone's coming your way and, for example, you might be in a king tide, that's incredibly valuable information for the type of damage, things you need to prepare for. So really, it's anything from, just going out into the water on an everyday to saving people's lives.
The data collected is not only used in Tonga, but by scientists and meteorologists around the region and the globe.
The southern hemisphere is fairly data sparse, and it's highly important that we have monitoring sites both at the islands in southern hemisphere and also that we have these ocean-based observations, and the more observations we have, the better the accuracy of the forecasts are going to be.
So in the last few years alone, we have used the data collected by these stations to support countries to improve their decision making. And a number of examples of those important decisions have been a modelling of tsunami threats here in Nuku'alofa. So this project is not only about collecting data, but it is also about making it accessible, understandable, and applicable to support national and regionally based decision making.
The demand for data to inform decision making continues to be a priority for the region, from government agencies and industries to community and homeowners. Using the valuable data from the sea level and geodetic monitoring station, Tonga Meteorological Service is leading the way in providing accessible, reliable weather and ocean services to the community, down to the last mile.
O ko mau inga pito ke mau whakaonga mau pe ke ngai whakatokanga toka mua pe he ko inga he ko mau tu la vea ngofua au pito. Pa he taim ko mau maua ngai whakatokanga o ko mau whenga lewa ko he whewhei tu e te mau malu ki ai ke mau whenga ki ai toka mua pa tok tō mai ai matanga.
Welcome back. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for, but we leave you with this mesmerizing performance from the Tahiti delegation at the Festival of Pacific Arts in the Solomon Islands. Be sure to check our stories on the Pacific Community YouTube channel for more videos and latest news from the region, or check us out on our Pacific Way Facebook page. Until next week, ka kite anō, tofa ni.
The person who wrote that song wrote to remember us the importance of the flower. That's why I also choose a theme about the flower.
Mohi mohi te mori tu tu I ta piri mai ia u ta ui here wa I te mautura va I te iene wa here iau ia o we
In our home before, when we didn't have the opportunity to get money to have power in the house, electricity, we use gas, petrol light. And when we want to switch off the light or to put it down just a little bit, we say mohi mohi. So it was about that time of our parents. They had no electricity at the house, and we did a song about that. The last dance about the eel, I wanted to talk about that very special animal. It's about a girl, her name is Hina. Her parents decided to get married, and the parent present the husband, it's an eel. And the Hina is very disappointed, and she decided to cut the head of the eel. But the eel said, if you put my head down, you're gonna see something. And one day she got to the river, she put the head down, and the day after we have the coconut tree appearing. And when you watch the coconut, you have 3 holes sometimes. It's the mouth of the eel that the eel said, you're gonna kiss me one day. That's it. So each time you drink a eel, it's that. And I wanted to make a dance about that. But it's something different as well because you see that the ladies, they use very difficult steps. I asked them to dance as an eel with many moves here, hips of the hips, yeah.